All right, what's up? I'm here to complain. I love to complain. Everybody knows that I love to complain. But here's something that I'm going to complain about today. I've complained about it before. It's my job. I've complained about previous jobs that I've worked at and jobs that I don't like. And I'm sure one day I'll have like a whole playlist of just a bunch of videos regarding like my jobs and my past experiences while working at said jobs and how I've dealt with certain things and what's faced me, so on and so forth. And I'm sure you will get a full catalog of that, right? But I do want to add that in some previous videos, I talked about making playlists according to things that have happened in my like other videos. Like I've wanted playlists for certain games and certain subjects and whatnot, and I have been making them. I've noticed because I did this some time ago that certain playlists I just could not make. Something dealing with, I guess, the way that I set up my YouTube channel prevented me from doing it. I hope to get that sorted out when I really start like making content because I don't really have a lot here for people to watch. One second. All right, I'm back. I got so sidetracked. There was a bunch of stuff I had to do, and I like lost all of like the momentum and energy and mood I was in when creating this. But I decided, I'm back now, so I'm gonna be speaking on this from another light. I want to do more videos, um, just about everything as a whole, and I want to have like story times and past histories and experiences and stuff that I want to speak on. So I remember originally saying that this one was going to be about my job. And the job that I do right now is actually pretty chill. It's pretty relaxing. Something that I've kind of realized while working is that when I work, I tend to run into this issue where I feel like I get burnt out. And I feel like any and everybody get this feeling, whether it's a relationship or it's a job or it's something relating to school or it's just something that's become habitual in your life that you deal with on like a daily basis, a monthly basis, a weekly basis, a yearly basis, something that's become like habit and something that you can expect and you know what's going to happen and blah blah blah. All right, I feel like after a while, once you've done it long enough, it really starts to eat you up. And for a while, I've been feeling pretty burnt out. Like I need a change of scenery. Like I need a change of place. Like I need something to change. I need. Um, I want more money. I want a different set of hours. I want this. I want that. And in order to do so, I have to be willing to apply myself for a change and be willing to get out of my comfort zone. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. Just because as humans, that's just something that we have to do. Now, I'm going to talk about the stuff that I want to complain about, more so matching with my job as far as in my mind. When it comes to work, usually not a lot of people complain about the work itself. They complain about the people that they have to deal with at work, whether that's customer service and you're an employee dealing with customers, or you're dealing with your coworkers or your boss or your bosses or clients or whatever the case may be, right? In this case, the job that I'm referring to relates more so to my coworkers. I don't really have customers. I do have clients to an extent, but really, it's nothing too big. My main focus, as far as like communicating with other people, are my coworkers, and my coworkers, let me tell you, are something awful. And I know a lot of people might hear that and think, "Oh, well, you're just saying that because maybe you're the one who's insufferable and you're about to record this video and come out looking like the dumb one." And you know what, maybe I might, but I still want to get it off my chest just because I wanted something to complain about. And I didn't really get a lot of content posted out last week. I had a test video and another video, and I don't want the test video to count as an actual video for that week, so I'm thinking today I might upload this video and one other video, maybe this video and several other videos. I don't know, because my plan originally was to have at least 2 videos a week. So I'm sorry for the people who did come around to my channel and you kind of just let whatever play through and you realize that I didn't really have as much, going for this week. But this job specifically, right? My coworkers are like the bane of my existence. Um, it all really started, right? I've had like rough moments with coworkers, and I'll be honest, no matter what job you work at, what you do, where you go, you're going to run into somebody that you just do not see eye to eye with, right? That's just how it is. But something that I've learned while working at a lot of my jobs, especially this one, is that there are people who are 10 years older than me, 20 years older than me, 30 years older than me, 40 years older than me, 50 years older than me, right? Older and older and older, right? These are people who should have families, who should have kids, who should have their own homes, who should have a 401k and a pension plan and tenor and all this extra stuff, right? Stuff that you would expect from like an adult, somebody who basically could run their own company with all the life experience that they've had. And I'm not saying that like any and everybody will have this kind of experience, right? Because it would be pretty stupid to think that everybody in the world would be that set at that age. You would want to be, right? We would all hope to be rich or be well off at a certain age to where we have a stable enough job to go to every day and we don't really have to stress about too much, right? We all would want to retire at a pretty decent time at a pretty decent age, right? But the people that I work with are teenagers. Sure, they're like in their 50s, they're in their 40s, they're in their 60s, they're in their 80s, but they're really just teenagers. And the craziest thing is, if you upset them in the slightest, then it becomes the biggest inconvenience for them, even if it's something tiny, right? So, for example, the I for me this happened more so with a specific coworker. Before all this extra stuff started happening, it really more so happened with a specific coworker. By this point, I had been at work for like a year at least, right? A year, maybe some change, and I've dealt with this coworker for a year's time. Most of my shifts will be like 8 hours, sometimes 16 hours. I've been on some 8 hour shifts with this coworker. I've been on some 16 hour shifts with this coworker. Right. So we've gotten to know each other. When you spend that much time alone in a room with somebody, you begin to learn them as a person and understand them and talk to them and, really just kind of see eye to eye. And even when you don't see eye to eye, at least have some kind of understanding where you respect each other. Right. And that's how it was for a while. This coworker is 35, if not like 37. Mind you, at the time I was like 23, maybe 24. And this coworker had a habit of just like chewing me out. But it wasn't just me. They chew a lot of people out. She was a black female. She wasn't a mom. She had several jobs, and the job that we worked at was one of them. And our job was pretty relaxed. Like I said, the job is not really hard. Really, all you do is sit down for 8 hours and watch over property. That's basically it. You get paid to sit down and watch over property. And sure, you can like bring stuff to entertain you, your phone, your game, food, um, whatever you can to pass time, books, whatever, right? Some coworkers would bring pillows, covers. They would bring personal chairs and mini fridges and all kinds of stuff. Man, it was almost as if it wasn't even really a job. So it was a pretty sweet job. No matter how old you were, being able to kind of just sit down in the area and not really do much for 8 hours, but entertain yourself, right? Finding things to bring to entertain yourself and to get paid for it was pretty much the equivalent of working at home and not having to answer to a boss because our job had a few bosses, but they rarely ever came around and they rarely ever had rules for us. In fact, one of the main ones told us, "Hey, welcome to like the compound, welcome to the area. My number one rule is that you make sure you like keep an eye out for this person or this company or whatever the case may be. Outside of that, bring your games, bring food, bring covers, bring pillows. I don't care. Just make sure that you keep your eye out for this thing and get your check. And we were all like, okay, cool. Thanks for the opening. It was really nice. It was like a dream job, pretty much. And this coworker that I had a habit of busting people's balls. Right? They would constantly complain and bust people's balls essentially for no reason. And I think that they did it because they thought that it was fun or funny. And honestly, to me, it was super annoying. But I didn't think too much into it at the time because I had somewhat just started working at the job, and they seemed pretty cool outside of the busting balls thing. We were actually able to talk one on one with each other and really kind of understand each other. So I didn't see any issues with communicating with this coworker. Right? There was nothing really wrong with like working near this coworker at all. And like I said, we've been doing this for a year and some change. Right? Um, well, one day, as all great stories go, I had to take a dump, right? I'd been holding it in for a few days, or if not a few days, then a few hours. The bathroom at the job was actually pretty filthy. A lot of people just did not take care of it. They did not clean up after themselves. They didn't do much at all to keep it clean. And so, because of that, I would rarely use that bathroom. And I wasn't the only one. A lot of people would actually drive home during their shifts to use the bathroom or drive to some local store to use the bathroom and then just come back to work. And that's kind of what we do because the bathrooms were just so awful. Uh, but my stomach was killing me that day. And if you know me, which like none of you do, so I wouldn't be surprised if nobody really knew. But when it came to like taking dumps, I was an issue. I would always be in the bathroom for a crazy amount of time. I was in the bathroom for a ridiculous amount of time. I actually have some issues with something going on in my stomach. Um, I was told about it, but was never really like officially checked up about it. So I don't really want to self-diagnose myself. But I had issues with my stomach. I had issues digesting food. I had issues processing food, and because of all of this, it made it very difficult for me to just be okay to stomach stuff and to digest and to eat. And it actually made me pretty wary about eating. If I knew, and that this went on for like years, right? Like ever since I was a kid. So if I knew that I had a job to go to, if I knew there was a shift I had to work, no matter where it was I was working at, I would make sure to eat light or like not eat at all. So I'd go on an empty stomach. At school, if they were serving food in the cafeteria and I knew the food was going to be greasy or sloppy or whatever the case may be, then I just wouldn't eat it, or I'd share it with somebody else and keep the light sides of it just so that I wouldn't pass out. And stuff like this, I do a lot. Going out to eat in public, um, eating on family trips, eating when I'm out with friends for whatever the case may be. I was always like eating less because I knew that if I did eat like a full meal, I'd be in the bathroom. Like my food would also digest extremely fast. I knew I'd be in a bathroom in like 10 minutes right after eating. And then not only that, but be in a bathroom for longer than 10 minutes because my whole like pooping and cleaning process was very anal, no pun intended. And it was just a lot, right? And so I pretty much had like a system down by the time I was like a teenager, young adult. But this day, my stomach was killing me. I don't know what I ate the night before. Probably something I shouldn't have eaten and thought that I'd be okay to just hold off. Because there have been shifts where I would just hold it for the entirety of 8 hours, 6 hours, 7 hours, whatever the case may be. But this shift, I could not. And I was feeling rough. I was feeling bad. And this coworker really upset me, right? Because when it came to doing work, I was always the one who did it. They would be sitting down, um, doing nothing. Now, mind you, I said that we pretty much had nothing to do, but there was one like side thing that we definitely had to do, and that was basically like watch out for a certain company or a certain amount of people and basically check them in. It was kind of like we were doing front desk at a hotel, but we weren't at a hotel. And I guess where we worked, it was kind of like a front desk situation, like a 24-hour front desk situation in the middle of nowhere. So sometimes we would have no work at all, where nobody would come at all. Sometimes people would come religiously. It all just depended on the situation. And during this day, people were coming in a lot more than what they normally are supposed to. And the way that I was trained and taught was that the person who sat in my position on the clock was the one who really did all the physical work, while the person who sat in her condition um, just kind of sat down and made sure that stuff got submitted the way it was supposed to be submitted. Right. While working with her that day, she didn't submit a lot of her work. She would have me do some of the stuff, even though she was supposed to be doing it. At one point, I believe she had mentioned helping out with, getting up and doing some of my work as well to kind of lighten the load. But at one point, got super frustrated about it and like just didn't want to do anything. Sometimes she would give her shifts up, and um, somebody would have to work it. So I'd end up filling in for a shift. So sometimes I'd be doing doubles when she was supposed to be doing doubles. And even though I was doing, her shift as well as my job and sometimes even her job, she would complain about it, which was pretty crazy to me that you could be entitled enough to complain about not having to do the work that you're getting paid to do. But this day, like I said, my stomach was just really killing me. And I went to go to the bathroom, but like an hour before I went to the bathroom, maybe 30 minutes before I went to the bathroom, something happened where this coworker snaps at me. And naturally, of course, because I'm in so much pain and whatnot, because I was like I said, I was like genuinely holding this in. This was like a monster trying to come out of me. And I was just thinking, if I hold it in for like another 4 hours, I'll be okay. But like, no, this was not happening. And I remember her snapping at me. And like I said, she'd do this pretty much every time we worked. And we worked together like once a week at least. So she snapped at me at least once a week for literally no reason. I chalked it up to her being on her period, which could be like super ignorant, right? Because you don't know what somebody else is going through. But at the same time, because you don't know what somebody else is going through, it gives you no right to like belittle them or talk to them like they're less than human, which is what she would do to me every week. And so one day, with my stomach hurting and I'd been holding it in for like hours, I just realized that I'd had enough and I ended up snapping back at her. And after I did, she went quiet. She didn't say anything. And then I went to go use the bathroom. And I came out of the bathroom and I was feeling great. I was feeling like the weight of the world had just been cleaned off my shoulders, right? I was light. I was happy. I was good. But I come back to my post and she's not there. Now, I hadn't mentioned this, but the number one rule for the job is that you have to be um, at the desk. You have to be at the post. There has to be two people at all times. But because I upset her, she decided that she didn't want to work, and she was gone. She was gone for about 5 to 6 hours, and usually, sometimes people will just leave without saying anything. It's safe to assume that they went on break, they went to go get food, they went to go use the bathroom, whatever. So I decided to wait 3 to 4 hours until the shift, and if she wasn't back by about the 5 or 6 hour, I would just leave, right? Because I mean, why should I be there if you're not there? And I was actually I was very much more so upset about it because we did have a manager. Even though this manager didn't necessarily breathe down our necks, he did favor the female workers more. So much more so that you would think something was going on between them because of how he was always babying them and keeping close to them. I have no idea what was going on between him and a lot of the female workers, but he would, cling on to them a lot more, and it was very uncomfortable. But what I mean by this is everybody at the job had to do inventory. Inventory meant getting up and walking basically the course of a football field, maybe half of a football field, to make sure that we had the stuff um, on company grounds that we needed, right? And everybody had to do this. But my manager made it so that none of the female workers ever had to do this. He thought, I guess, the physical exercise for female workers would be too much, so he'd only leave it to the male workers. And in my experience, a lot of the male workers even found a way to like weasel themselves out of it by convincing other male workers to do it. So what was supposed to be one of us doing half of the work and then splitting it with the other to do the work ended up being one person doing everything. Not only that, but if you worked with a female worker, you definitely had to do everything. And that went from doing all the physical work at the desk, which I haven't really like described all the work um, down exactly. I might in another video, but this work was basically it wasn't a lot. You know, it was getting up, it was checking some things, it was placing things on to other things, and then going and checking other things, right? Which is super vague, but really it was super stuff, super like elementary things that a child could actually do, right? Like a literal child could. It wasn't anything too heavy you had to lift, not always, rarely ever actually. It was really just opening doors to an extent. And I was doing all of that. And on top of that, I was also doing inventory. And because my coworker would leave, I was also doing all of the work as far as submitting it into the system goes. So I was doing all that, and she just wasn't there. And I was like, okay, well, if I'm doing all this work and my manager is like giving her the okay to get paid while she does nothing, I shouldn't have to work two people's jobs and get paid for one. So I texted my manager and I was like, hey, have you seen so or so? And he was telling me no, I thought she was with you. I was like, she hasn't been with me for 5 hours. And, I would think common sense with a normal manager would go, oh my God, I'll check up on this. I'll get down on this immediately. But what ended up happening was my manager was more so just like, LOL, that's weird. I was like, you don't say. And I was like, has she like spoken to you? And this wasn't me like flat out trying to like tell on her or anything. I was just trying to see if she told him that she was leaving, right? And if she did, then I let him know, hey, I think something went wrong between us. I wasn't entirely sure, and I wouldn't know because she wasn't man enough to tell me face to face, like the adult who is like 10 to 12 years older than me that she's supposed to be. Right? So I let my manager know, because by this point, after like talking to him for, I want to say maybe 5 to 10 minutes through text, he really doesn't care. I was like, okay, well, hey, I'm gonna leave because we've got like maybe 30 minutes to an hour left. If you don't care about her being here, I'm damn sure not gonna be here, right? Everybody's got a life. I could go shower after taking a dump in his dirty bathroom. I could go change clothes. I could get rest. I could go do literally anything else, same way that she could. Also, at the time, I was driving a lended vehicle because there was something wrong with mine. And I didn't want it to be one of those situations where I didn't get it back on time or it would end up having something happen to it because I'd have to like to get to my job, I'd have to park in a different parking lot. Everybody's supposed to, but not everybody did, which is another rule that people would break. But if you didn't park in the parking lot that you were supposed to be parked in, you could get ridden up, possibly lose your job. And so I ended up parking in the parking lot that we were supposed to park at, which is like a 5 to 10 minute walk from where we were actually supposed to be working. So I let my manager know, and he was like, "All right, cool." He didn't care that we were leaving, and so I'm heading out. I'm like, "Okay, cool. I mean, if that's the case, I can just get paid to not work. Like that's not going to bother me." So I'm leaving, and I see her. She's actually parked in the parking lot where we're supposed to be parked, which is a first because she never, and I repeat, never parks down there. And so she's sitting in her car, she's on her phone, she's ignoring me. And I couldn't even like tell her, hey, I'm about to head out. because she's she's acting like a toddler. She's avoiding eye contact. She's avoiding conversation. She's zoning herself for me. So because I snapped on her, it upset her so much so that she decided not to talk to me. And mind you, um, when I snapped on her, it wasn't anything too crazy. I basically, like, quite literally told her to shut up and that nobody wanted to hear what she had to say. Because the stuff that she would say to me on a day to day basis wasn't like constructive criticism. It was pretty much always just her busting my balls for no reason. You know, why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? Stuff like that, right? And the thing is, she'd ask why, but she knew exactly why because we'd have like this kind of conversation every day, and she'd basically sign off on it. So it was like she was changing her own rules and getting upset at something that I may be doing differently, or maybe I'm not doing it differently, and she just has a different way of working and decided to implement some new rule in order for her to work later in that week, right? Like there's no telling, right? So uh because of all this, I leave, right? I go home and from that point onward, right, this was probably about 6 months ago. From that point onward, she's done nothing but give me this silent treatment every shift we have. She ignores me. She speaks happily with other coworkers. She keeps to herself. And, well, whenever she's near me, she keeps to herself. She doesn't talk to me. At times, I think she records me because she'll come in with her phone in hand and point the camera at me. And I don't really say much about it just because if she's not recording me, it would be kind of stupid to like lose my cool over it. And even if she was recording me, like say she had somebody like come in to quote unquote deal with me or handle me or whatever the case may be. I mean, I'll be honest. The way that I'm built, it's gonna take a few people to take me down, right? So say she was on the phone with her boyfriend or whatever, trying to scare me or something. I mean, it would not have, you know what I mean? So I just thought it was goofy if she actually was. But since then, we just have not really talked. And mind you, we went from being like two people who would talk all the time to people who just did not talk at all. And this is like a 35-year-old to a 23-year-old, maybe 24 at this time. So I'm, big enough to stand up for myself. I'm big enough to continue to do the work that I need to do. I'm big enough to handle the situation as an adult. But this person who's supposed to be older than me and have more life experience than me and have a better understanding and a better grip on everything in general is here acting like she's in high school. And this is just one of the many examples that I've gone through while in a work business type of situation. But I plan on, talking about this string of other things as well. And I think I'll just put them in another video. I see this video is running like 30 minutes long. So, yeah.